Today I'll go through the most important topic I have covered yet, and that is how to actually quit your online addictions and why your choice to neglect them, if you do so, is absolutely fatal. Now, I'm the founder and main developer of the cybersecurity portal iofliberty.com, and hopefully I'll bring up some topics that might benefit you if this problem concerns you or anyone you know in your personal life. But why is this such a big issue in our modern society? And how come most people haven't yet realized the extent, the worrying extent that this has touched us and the way we live our lives so severely? Of course, internet use is now at 5.6 billion people as of recording this video. It's a significant number, enough for about half of those people to have been called a Hitler online, which shows just how vast the network of internet users is and how it's touched many of our lives. Now, of course, the fact that this is so large and so widespread and so new yet at the time shows that many people have not yet learned how to actually use it productively, not yet learned how to use it for good, instead of letting our internet use become something to be sold on and to be hijacked for companies that seek to exploit us. Of course, many sites and apps we use on a daily basis are made specifically to make use of our evolutionary mechanisms. So, our curiosity on one hand, our sexual desire in many cases on the other hand, to get us hooked to their services, to keep using them and to keep feeding them data. And this is dangerous because we realize that mechanisms that have been ingrained into our psychology for millennia are now being used to exploit us and, in fact, to do the reverse of survival, what enabled us to live and reproduce before. Of course, one of the key prime examples of this is video gaming. Of course, before in our life, having curiosity really helps us to survive. Being curious and trying out new farming methods, new hunting methods, led us to enable to get food more better, to survive, to discover new land, and to live on. But now, of course, releasing new video games and exploring new lands, building up your character in video games often leads you to being distracted from the things that actually matter in life. And especially with teenagers, this touches a lot of them. First, it starts out with experimentation, and as seen on the screen, how it progresses on. So you might do it socially to meet up with your friends, to have some fun exploring new places in a game. Maybe you like building up your character, finding new gear for it to wear, for example. But over time, you turn it to escape your problems. Because, of course, leveling up in a video game is far easier than trying to level up in your life. Well, or at least it seems so. And later on, of course, you become addicted to it because it has become so easy. And even on a chemical level, you become so motivated to work on your game, and real life becomes so boring in comparison that video games are the only thing you can physically devote yourself to when at the same time your real life suffers heavily. Everyone is prone to this because the same mechanism that developed us to even have motivation in the first place to do anything is ingrained into each and every one of us as part of human psychology. So just because you play about 1 hour a day doesn't mean you can't get addicted. And of course, even the hour a day you spend experimenting with certain games could still be used to better fulfill your actual survival and your actual progress in life rather than playing with a fake video game character. And this is something you have to keep in mind. Now, another big thing, of course, is pornography. And many people underestimate this as well for understandable reasons. Of course, this has become so socially normalized. A lot of men watch it, some women as well. And the fact that this is so widespread and so big and alive can have very worrying circumstances. Now, pornography was an issue even before when we had VHS tapes and DVDs, but now it's becoming increasingly large of a problem just because it's so unlimited. Now, if you think about before, in the age of even the medieval time, us having sexual access was only possible through real people. Getting sexual gratification was only available through work, essentially, through working on yourself, through going out and meeting real people. But now, since it's so unlimited and easily available, we have hijacked our evolutionary mechanisms. Now, you might think porn addicts are only people who are completely lost in life, of course, if you don't watch porn. But in fact, just looking at the data of how many people, especially young men, watch it is absolutely insane. Again, with the advent of technology, this is only getting worse and worse. So I highly recommend to anyone who is maybe a porn addict himself or wants to help someone. Like, I'm lucky enough to not have this problem personally, but I know it's a very serious issue in our society. Go read Gary Wilson's book, Your Brain on Porn. I highly recommend it. And if you're not convinced by now that it's a large societal problem in our modern day, then definitely read it. And I know for sure you'll be convinced. Save yourself before it's too late, honestly. With the rise of technology, with the rise of the data that is becoming out there, these addictions can have far worse consequences than just some time spent on a random website somewhere. Many people in the US, especially due to their porn addictions, have turned to finding hookups through online sites, deciding to get people to have affairs together. Ashley Madison and Adult Friend Finder are prime examples of this. But as some of you might know, those websites suffered large and horrific data leaks in the past few years, and all of those databases were revealed. Even if you can't save your current job because of being revealed to be part of this, even if you can't save your current relationship, you should be given a new chance sometime in life. And of course, one of the best ways to do that, to ensure you know what you have, is to actually check the data on you out there. And you can use any different website. There's lots of places to search where you have your data leaks. Of course, I recommend eyeofliberty.com, the website I developed to make it easier for everyone. So if you've ever visited one of those sites, even if you don't exactly remember registering it, it's highly better to check. Just check if you're on there. Go through your emails, type on there. I've got 3 free searches for everyone, so you can look it up. If you're in an Ashley Madison league, for example, you know to not use that email on job applications. Or if you've even, for example, if you're a woman and you're meeting your new partner, you might want to get his email and search him up to find if he's been adulterous before, and that can, of course, influence your decision for good. So at the same time as believing in redemption, I believe in knowing what you have to redeem and what you have to confess, because being able to come to terms with your past is vital. And without that, you're definitely lost. Now, again, no amount of hardcore security will give you a 100% chance of avoiding detection, even in the future. So the only reliable solution is to actually save yourself from addiction. There's no way getting around it. So save yourself before it's too late and before you even have to consider about security using VPNs, unique passwords, and all other things that are just band-aid solutions for real psychological problems. Now, on the state level, of course, systemic change needs to happen to stop us from destroying our future with these new addictions we haven't yet met before. Of course, before we had alcohol addictions, drug addictions, and some work is being done with limited success in a way to stop this from destroying our society completely. But this doesn't rule out your personal responsibility in beating those addictions, both of the old forms that are more well known and the newer ones, the internet versions of addictions. So you still have your personal responsibility to actually fix your life, and don't let this digital life to overwhelm you entirely. Now, the only real way to quit is to actually replace your addiction with a life that's really worth living. If you don't do that, then all else will fail. You might hear a lot of advice on the internet saying, some people are just chemically more prone to addictions, they need special medication. Some people might be so far lost, there's no way of saving them. But I don't believe that, honestly. Many people have had worse situations than you, probably, but they still got out of it. They still found hope, but not through easy, quick fixes. Like a psychiatrist might prescribe SSRIs, antidepressants, to anyone who's struggling with porn, alcohol, and as a result, they're depressed. But of course, this just targets the symptoms. They make you into a passive shell of a human being and doesn't target the root cause of the problem, which is, in effect, an unfulfilling life. So the best way to quit and the only way to quit is to actually replace your addictions with something that's far more valuable and that you know to be valuable. If you're stuck in a worthless career or you're doing something you absolutely detest, then of course you need to change it first. Only then you've got an active chance of quitting. And even technical tools will only be a side aid, not the main thing. And I just remembered a story where I've had a friend who, still back in school quite some time ago, was addicted to Twitch streamers. Now, he didn't have any money. He had no purpose in life, constantly played video games on his phone, and still found solace in Twitch streamers. So he'd go on them, go on the streams even during breaks, before school, after school, would even donate money to them to have the super chats read out just because he wanted some validations from them. And it was very tragic. Luckily, though, at around 16 years old, I think, he discovered that he had a talent for drawing accidentally and started becoming a graphic designer, started drawing things on his phone at first, but later on got a laptop, developed skills in Photoshop and other apps for professional design, and became an actually good, competent specialist. Over time, he got his own Discord channel, he got his own customer base, and started becoming more and even more professional. Even I remember, honestly, I paid him around like $70 just to pay to set up a website I was running at that time as a side hustle back in school. And he turned his life around. He stopped playing video games entirely because he knew he was doing something much more valuable. Again, why spend 2 hours spending video games when he could be getting customers and making designs that was actually building his life, not just financially, but professionally and creatively as an artist. Now, this is just one story of someone turning his life around. That could be you if you find what's specific for you. Now, this guy was particularly interested in art, in digital design, and that's what helped him get out. For someone, it could be another issue. So, either way, you'll have to be open to discovering new interests and making time for those as well. Now, there are certain technical things that could help you do this if you're still unclear. For example, you could first of all use a site blocker. Like this is the plugin I use myself, just to make sure that I don't go and visit sites I've had an issue browsing in the past. Again, over time, this becomes less needed when you stop getting the need to watch them in the first place. But for the time being, it will definitely help. Enlarge as a side aid to the main purpose of finding actual true purpose in life, but that could still do a plus when you've got the urge to watch something, but it's already blocked. And that could serve just as a reminder to yourself that, okay, I've got something much more fun to do. I'm just browsing the old site out of habit. I won't need to watch Netflix. I won't need to browse Facebook. I can do something much better. And that can help as well. Another tip I've heard of and used myself quite some time ago really well is to use financial visualization. And Jordan Peterson, great man, talked about this in one of his talks as well to the students. he taught back in Toronto. How much do you expect to make in your lifetime? That was the question he asked. And if you expect to be successful in life, which you probably do, if you're ambitious and motivated, then you'll probably be making 50, 100, or even $500 an hour over the course of your lifetime on average. Now, if you want to watch porn for an hour, for example, and then play video game for three, play some CSGO, League of Legends, whatever young people play these days, that would be worth $2,000. No, just for one evening, like from 6 to 10 p.m. Imagine how many of those are in a week, in a month, or in the past year. That's a lot of money just for some mindless entertainment you've consumed and forgotten about, gotten nothing out of it as a result. Would you want to pay $2,000 for just an evening of awful entertainment you'll regret? Of course, the answer is no. So, if you visualize that before deciding to play some games, you become disgusted at the thought of spending your time so foolishly. And that can also help you prevent you from spending that time. Doesn't matter what you are preventing either, just random scrolling, video games, social media, or any other waste of time. This can help quite well. So, to conclude, of course, dream big. That's what I'll say. That's the main point, I guess. And constantly remind yourself of the goals you have. Because, of course, if you just write them down once but never go back to them, you'll be much more likely to fail. You're much less likely to fail if you stick it up on your wall, if you make a calendar and actually check it for 5 minutes every day to see what you're up to see the goals you want to strive for in life. So dream big, and that's the only real way, that's the best way to replace an internet addiction and a life that you hate with something that's worth pursuing. So if you have any stories of your own where you could successfully, where you could demonstrate how you've successfully quit your addictions and what you're working on in the moment and what's helping you right now, definitely share it in the comments. I'll be very happy to hear from you. So until then, see you next time.